Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen. I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. You've tuned into the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And Tom, it is a brisk, cool day in Paw Paw, Michigan, where I'm at, and starting to feel like winter is going to be upon us, even though it's a bright day today. It's cold. I took the beast out this morning about 6:30, and it was nippy out.
Is that the name of the town where the lake house is? Paw Paw?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. I like that. Very nice.
Yeah. Well, that's for those of you who are baseball fans and older baseball fans. Paw Paw gained a lot of recognition because there was a player named Charlie Paw Paw Maxwell. That was his nickname. Who was allegedly, and I say allegedly because it's turned out everybody said he was from Paw Paw, but the people here in Paw Paw, even today, will tell you he was not from Paw Paw. He was from Lawton, which is the town over. But people thought that people would know where Paw Paw is, so they said Paw Paw, and it was kind of a cooler name than saying he was from Lawton.
Now, am I correct or not in thinking that a lot of Michigan town names have a Native American twist to them? Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's some. I mean, but in the Midwest, you have a lot of them. Our college football teams, we had the Chippewas in Central Michigan, and in the Eastern Michigan where I went was the Hurons when I was there, and then they changed it to the Eagles. I was a little disappointed in that because the Huron tribe, it's after the Huron River. They were happy about having, their tribe celebrated. So I didn't understand quite why that name had to be, taken away.
Yeah, I can see where it could be a little bit disparaging, some of those nicknames, but other ones are very it's honoring the tribes and everything, right?
Yeah, that's the Chippewas feel that way. I've seen them suggest that. I mean, obviously the Braves, that's a caricature. The Indians, we don't even use that anymore.
Redskins.
Yeah, Redskins. Those are all, pretty easily seen as derogatory. But, some of them where it's the exact name, if the tribe is fine with it, I don't understand why we need to remove them. So anyway, a lot to talk about today. I was thinking today, and I don't want to turn this into too much of a technical the show, but there's been a lot of discussion about how well the Calgary Flames are playing, and one of the reasons they're playing so well is they really have embraced kind of the Daryl Sutter style of play, and that is obviously kind of a shutdown style of play. It's very defensive oriented, and Tom, you are obviously a stay-at-home defenseman. You know a lot about defensive play, and without getting too technical, we don't need a blackboard X's and O's, but what are they doing? Obviously, they've got great goaltending, but what are they doing? Like, what's the difference between the way most teams play and maybe what Sutter is doing with regard to, it seems to me they're hard to play against because when you get in a neutral zone, there's no room to get through.
Right. So the big words to me are attention to detail and sacrifice when you're playing well defensively. And it's really, that's why you see it's tough. Like maybe a team like Calgary will go on a roll for a while. They'll win, maybe 9 out of 10 games. They're playing so great defensively, but it's a hard game to play because you really do have to sacrifice a lot of the offensive chances, a lot of the offensive players, and there's plenty of them now. They want to try to make that 50-foot pass across the ice, or they want to try to beat somebody one-on-one. And you can't take that away from some of those talented offensive players, but to really win, and it's kind of like a playoff style hockey where it's grinded out. It's make all the chip plays. You're inside your blue line. Instead of trying to beat somebody to get it out, you chip it out so you make sure you get it outside your blue line. Same thing when you're going to the opposition's blue line. You want to make sure you get the puck into the zone. It's playing the body. It's picking people up. It's learning. And I don't blame the players of today, but the game has certainly changed, and the players that they select to play in the NHL have changed too. So a lot of the defensemen, they're not really designed to hammer people against the boards and clear out the front of the nets like we were back then. It's more to get the puck and get it out of your zone. That's how they play better defense, get it out of your zone quickly. But some of the consequences that come with that is that maybe the players don't understand the defensive zone as well. They're chasing people behind the net. They're not covering the slot area like they should. So it's all those it's really getting the players and I think this is with Sutter. He's a great salesman too. It's getting them and Herb Brooks was like this, where getting the players to buy into, listen, if you play the style I want you to play, yes, it'll be hard, but we'll have much more success. And I think the advantage that Sutter has this year too is that the last couple of seasons for Calgary haven't been that good. So it's an easier sell now to say to the guys, okay, this hasn't been working the way you've done it in the past year. So no, this is where we're going to do it now. And you had mentioned it before too. And I guess I really never paid attention to it, but the power of the Sutters, I think really shows up, that power of persuasion to go out and, stick to the game plan.
Yeah. We hear that the phrase too, hard to play against. And when I hear that, what I think of is, when you get the puck, you look up and there's somebody on you. And, if you want to get to the net, you'll pay a price in order to do that. Yep. If you're trying to just gain the zone, it won't be easy to get in there because there's going to be somebody on you. Like, they're giving you no time. You're relentless in your pursuit of the puck. That's how I feel about it. Anything you would add to that when you talk about a team being hard to play against?
Yeah, taking away time and space, right? Like you talked about, taking that attention to detail, like getting in on the forecheck, the back check with somebody, instead of swinging by people. It's very often like you see Fox for the Rangers. He's so good, but he holds on to the puck, waits for the person to swing by him, and then now he's got more room to make a move. And I got to think that sooner or later, more and more teams are going to say, guys, you have to go through Fox. You can't swing by him. You got to keep taking the body on him. So I'm kind of surprised that hasn't happened yet. It probably will happen more, but he's a smart player. He'll adjust. But that taking away time and space is huge. I know for me, that was, not being a really good offensive player. I had to be that good defensive player. And it was really the time and space was a huge thing. So much more of that. Okay, this is my man here. I'm trusting that my teammates have their man. Now I'm going to go take away the time and space from the guy that's got the puck, which is my man. Offensive players want to have room to make good plays, but if you're on top of them more, and again, that's the hard. I mean, Connor McDavid now is a perfect example, right? With the speed of the game, you're not allowed to hook and hold as much as we were when I played. Like, we used to be able to go to the player. Like, if I was going to play against Connor McDavid, I would go right up against him, have my stick between his legs. It's called the can opener move, and just not let him go anywhere. You can't do that anymore. You're going to take penalties all night long, and then they're on the power play all night long. So, but again, you can still do it. You can still, like, if you're smart, again, the players are much better skaters now. They're not all going to be as good skaters as Connor McDavid, but they're smart. They take away that time and space, and that's why you watch them play against, like, people play against Edmonton. And I know it's intimidating because I've talked before about Gilbert Perreault. But you don't want to be the guy that gets beat one-on-one with McDavid, but you've got to get up there and take this time and space away from him.
It's interesting. One play that we don't see anymore, which I used to enjoy, and some of the guys really perfected it. Rob Blake was great at it. Guy that I think of is Brian Rafalski, and that is when somebody's breaking 3-on-2 into the offensive zone, and Rafalski used to squeeze his guy out along the boards. Like, he would just angle him to the boards, and then eventually he would use his hip and his body to, sort of pin him against those boards, and just really sort of take him out of a play. Of course, that's interference now. They don't allow you to hold that guy up.
And that's a great point, because Nicholas Lidstrom, I think, was probably the best at that. Rafalski, Blake were actually expert at it too, but you're right. And they've changed the rules now to the advantage of the offensive players. That's what they want. So the defensive players, as much as we can sit here and what they should do, there's only a certain amount of stuff you can do. Even the front of the net now, like, and I just read an article how they've really cracked down on the cross-checking, and that's another move, like moving the guy out from the front of the net with a cross-check. They've made so many rules now, and I see what they're trying to do. Obviously, an old defensive player like myself doesn't like it as much. I'd rather see a good, solid defensive play, but they've changed the rules so that players can score more goals.
Well, the thing about it really never made any sense, and with regard to using the stick. Like, I think moving that guy out with your body, is still sort of allowed. Although they'll call that out. But that really looks barbaric for someone who doesn't know the game. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up with it, so it seems totally normal to use your stick to go like this. But, you get people who are just learning the game, and they're going, that's legal? That you just take your stick and just wail on the guy, where, and
Even the little plays in front of the net. I'll never forget a game we were playing in Chicago, and Al Secord, who was a great guy but pretty tough player too. He was in front of the net. It was my job to move him, so I got really close to him from behind and just kind of nudged the back of his feet, so he's going to lose his balance, and then I can push him out. He's trying to stand there and be strong. Well, I hit the back of his feet. He almost lost his balance. He almost fell down. And his stick comes flying up and hits me in the face and cuts me wide open. He gets a 5-minute penalty for sticking. And he was so funny because he was like, he's looking at me like, and I'm going, Al, I'm sorry. like here I'm bleeding, but it was my fault that it happened. And he gets kicked out of the game. But there's a lot of funny stuff. I'll never forget one of the two guys I'll never forget, Charlie Simmer and Joey Mullen. Both really big time goal scorers, right? Charlie Simmer was a bigger guy, but really didn't play a real physical game. He was a skilled player. And they would come to the front of the net, and I'm supposed to be that defenseman, hammering guys, cross-checking them and punching the back of the head, move another way. And so those guys would come to the front of the net. I'll never forget particularly Joey Mullen one time. He was in Calgary, and I gave it to him good. I was thinking, I'm going to intimidate this kid. I'll get him out of the front of the net. He's not going to hang around here. And he leaves. He goes out to the high slot, and I'm thinking, okay, I showed him. He's not coming back. Well, he knew exactly what he was doing. So was his teammates. He went in, got my attention, let me do my thing, moved back out to the high slot. They pass it to him right away. He shoots and scores. And it was a great play. He turned and looked at me. He didn't laugh too much, but he kind of looked at me like, well, that's I had that one planned. So I was like, God, it was he was good. He was good that way.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Guys are always scheming. I mean, you got to find some level of advantage. Going back to something you said earlier, I think there's still room, and guys and GMs and scouts are looking for the guy that is really defensive minded. The difference is, I think, is they require that guy now to have some offensive skill. Like there's hardly any room for the one-dimensional defensive player. That would be how I would view it.
Yeah, if you're going to be
at least a good first pass.
Right. So. Exactly. That's it, Kev. If you're going to be a good defensive player, you still need to be able to get the puck out of your zone. If you have to skate it, you got to be able to skate it, but preferably with a quick pass. Yeah, totally. You can't be the old Brad Marsh kind of guy. And I thought the world of Brad Marsh. Somebody criticized him, but it was all hack and whack. And yeah. And
if you think about it, around in the 80s, that's, every defense had at least one of those guys, maybe two. That third pairing was usually guys who weren't quite as mobile, and that's you get Bossy out there, and he goes wide on them, and suddenly he's in. You just don't see that. You turn on the old highlights, and you see guys going, roaring wide on the defenseman.
Yeah.
And when's the last time you saw that? It doesn't happen very often in the NHL anymore. Beat a guy wide because they're all skating.
I know. I remember at the end of my career, I was out in LA, and Kelly Rudy, I think I've told the story, but Kelly Rudy's a goaltender, great guy too, great teammate and everything. And I'd hurt my back and my skating was terrible. I was just so frustrated with my game. We're playing a game in Toronto, and people were going around me like that was a turnstile. It was all, and he finally came to me. He's pretty frustrated, but he really kept his composure. He goes, Tom, if you can't stop anybody, can you please just get out of the way? I was right at the end of my career, and I remember when he said that to me, and he was being very nice. He was a great teammate, but I'm realizing, my career is coming to an end here because I can't, with the back and everything, I just couldn't move. And it was so frustrating because I used to be I was very proud of being a good defensive player, but yeah, that was.
Yeah. Talking some more about being hard to play against too. Another thing that's completely different about today's game, and it's been for a long time now, but it's reached the point now where it's pretty incredible. You watch old film clips and guys get breakaways, and you wouldn't see another guy enter the picture forever. And like back pressure now is, that's why it's, and I don't think the average fan gives this any thought, but a shootout when you don't have a guy on your tail chasing you is a completely different animal than being on a breakaway and having that back pressure where you know that guy's there, he's coming. So you sense it. You've been through it enough that it's happening. But you see that now, and even when a guy gets a breakaway, he's got a guy right on his heels. He might have a stride on him, but he can't slow down. You can't coast the final 15 feet.
Right.
Keep driving.
Even if he is ahead of the back checking player, he still knows he really can't take much time to make a move, right? So it's either like a quick move or shoot, right? So
Yeah, back pressure, and I can imagine. I've never been in in a film session with guys. But I can't imagine that a coach, if you're not skating full out with your back pressure on a guy, that's, I can't imagine that is very pleasant for the player.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I'm trying to think to myself now. That's such an automatic play. The back check being so important that I remember a couple of years ago there was, I think it was Kucherov from Tampa had he was doing through a tough stretch or something. It might have been in the playoffs even, and he before they won the cup, and he was doing that. And I was thinking, oh man, that's just not going to sit. It doesn't sit well with your teammates even, right? Because nowadays that is just such a standard play that your teammates aren't going to like either. But
yeah, one of the greatest changes in the league for players was the invention of video replay. So, because I've said this before, you always say, I had my man, and then, once the video came in, everybody knew who didn't have their man. It was readily available.
We as much as about 2 months ago, we were doing the Thursday show, and I think it was James Patrick who said that he was been watching one of the old games. He's going, man, I suck. I was terrible out there. And I went and watched the game. It's serious because, when you watch a game today, you see a guy make a mistake and you think automatically, well, he should have done this, he should have done that. But then you go back and watch your games, you think, what was I thinking about? But that's the game, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing I've learned from, because I'm kind of a connoisseur of old tapes. I have a bunch of old NFL games from the 60s and stuff. And you get caught up thinking, my God, that they're moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
But it's all relative. Like,
totally.
you played at a high level for that era, like the speed, I'm sure going from Northern Michigan University to the NHL, you felt like you were in the Indy 500 in terms of the speed.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And games.
So my point of all that is look, today's game is so much faster. I mean, it just really is. The players are faster. It's just, common knowledge, but it doesn't really matter because, it's all relative. Like to you, that game was just going so fast. And if you were in this game, you would adjust. You said
that before too, and you probably at first I kind of scoffed at it, but you're right. If you want to play,
if Gordie Howe didn't play at this speed, but if Gordie Howe came up now, he would play at this speed because you just get used to it. Like you can't convince me that a great athlete can't adjust to the speed of the game.
So. And it's equipment, it's the training methods, it's the diet, everything about it. I still use when I coach, I still use a wooden stick. I can't with the new sticks. I hit the puck bounces off my stick enough as it is. With those new, I just can't control the puck at all. So everybody laughs at me because I got the wooden stick still.
Yeah, but if you were out there more, if you were playing every day, you'd shift to that and you'd adjust.
Yeah. Totally.
That's just the way it goes. So,
how about the Islanders open up their new building? Everybody says it's beautiful. Right?
Well, it doesn't matter if you've got a new building if you're playing as poorly as they are.
Well, they've got a good point. They can't score any goals. They lost 2-0 again last night. They've got 6 guys out with COVID, I believe. Villiers missed with 2 nights ago with a false positive, but he missed the game. And then he came back for the next one. So, it's interesting. So with Ottawa, they canceled 3 of their games. They had 9 guys out with COVID. The Islanders have 6 guys out with COVID. I mean, at what point? Obviously the league has to make that final decision. But you're just wondering with Lou Lamoriello, they get the Rangers coming up on Wednesday or Thursday night. I can't remember what it is. At some point, does he call up the league? He says, "Guys, it just isn't fair. I mean, we don't have a full lineup." Right?
Yeah, that's the problem that you have. Like it's impossible, I think, to set an arbitrary rule. Yeah. Like you can't just say, okay, 7 or more and you cancel, because I don't, because every like all the cases are different. Like some people have a lot of players in protocol, but they're all asymptomatic. And then all they really need is back-to-back, negatives, where then you have some that have symptoms. And so it's kind of a complicated deal. The bottom line is this, is like COVID it looked like we were going to get through kind of unscathed, even though we were only, 10 games in because we were doing okay. And then all of a sudden it's hit. And now it's causing problems.
And the big question of the day is the Olympics, right? I mean, the owners, one of the things that they don't like about the Olympics is it's players going over there getting hurt and star players. Now they come back. Now they're missing one of their star players out of the lineup. I mean, it's the same thing with the COVID. Though it's not an injury. You're having a player missing time from playing for your team. I don't know. Maybe I'm overstating that. Maybe that's a.
Well, I think if you're the league, what you're really hoping for is Trudeau and Biden get together and move beyond the diplomatic boycott into a participation boycott. Because there's so much going on there. Obviously, there's tensions between,
Yeah.
the free world and the communist China and so forth. And, with the one tennis player missing and, so, I mean, who knows what's going to happen.
That's just one person, too. You do think about the abuses that China's accused of. And we're having the Olympics in their country, right? It's but then they're like a bank for us too. We borrow all kinds of money from them. So
well, for sure. It's hard on these athletes to train all these years.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they get their chance. I mean, it's less of an issue, I think, for an NHL player who still has his career. But, if you're a snowboarder, I guess snowboarder is a bad example. They make some money. But if you're a bobsledder or a
Nordic skiers or something like that, they've worked for all their life.
Well, you're not earning a lot of money, and you get your chance, and then it's ended by a boycott. But I mean, COVID. I mean, it's they said when they went along with it is that that the players could go as long as there was not a COVID issue, but there appears right now to be a COVID issue. Although I, to be honest with you, I still think Gary Bettman, as much as the league does not want to go, and they have not wanted to go for a long time now, and as much as owners don't want it, and the league doesn't want it, it'll be hard for me to believe that Gary will be reluctant to pull the plug, because does he really want to go to war over this with players?
And that's okay. So here's the conversation. I'm just trying to run through it. You're going to be Don Fear. I'm Gary Bettman. So hey, Don, we got an issue here with our COVID going on. Do you think we should be going over to China for the Olympics? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think that's going to be tough for Don, because they discussed all the disadvantages with the players, even going into this, because this is there's no family going over. That changes everything for a lot of players, and these guys are going to be tested. They have to be masked up at all times. I just talked to someone recently who's going over, and he pointed out that you got to be masked all the time. He didn't understand that. If we're all vaccinated, why do we all have to be masked everywhere we go? And but that's the rules. And they explained all this to players, and the players still wanted to go. So I don't know. I think the Donald Fear's in a bad spot too. I mean, he can recommend, maybe he will recommend that they don't go. But if the rank and file wants to go, it's the players' union. It's not Donald Fear's union.
Very true. Very true. But having said that, the guys like Bob Goodenow and Donald Fear are very persuasive too, right? But
yeah. Well, maybe he will. I don't know. But my only point of all that is, I mean, at some point, I think Gary Bettman would say we're not going. But I think for the most part, he would be reluctant to do that, because he made that commitment. And you don't want to create another war with players.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if I'm let's say I'm Sidney Crosby, then I know you're trying to make the playoffs. You've had a great career. The Pittsburgh machine, somehow they continue to win as much as they need to. I mean, and then is he saying, if all these cases going on, is he saying to himself, man, if I go over there and a whole bunch of guys on my team and myself get COVID, this season's down the tubes. We're not, I mean, I don't know. I just, I get why players want to go to the Olympics. I just think this is such a unique time we're living in right now, right? I mean, what's done to the last 2 seasons, now we're back playing to full buildings, and go over to another country. I just have a hard time.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether they think about it in these terms, but the way that I would present it is, and I say this all the time, and sometimes people don't kind of comprehend this, but the Olympics is so much bigger than our little league. I mean, it is just gigantic.
Yeah.
And players who are there get it, because suddenly, in social media, I remember, and I still remember this 2010 when Ryan Miller was playing so well. And I mean, social media was just a buzz with people who had no idea who Ryan Miller was. Like, our number one question every day for about 4 or 5 consecutive days was, where does Ryan Miller play when he's not at the Olympics?
Right.
That was our
Okay.
number one question.
So what did that do for Ryan Miller? I hate to be kind of selfish like this, but did it help him?
I don't think that they feel that it did anything for him. Is that he just liked the notoriety? Like it was so big. I mean, they were going on, getting invited on things that they wouldn't normally get invited on, and their grandmother could sit home and watch him in the Olympics. I mean, it was just that kind of thing. It's like T.J. Oshie, his level of popularity probably rose significant. I mean, just a lot of people in the country who don't know anything about hockey, remember T.J. Oshie.
Yeah, how many shots? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and it just becomes bigger. People like they want to have parades in your hometown, and it's just so big that it's kind of hard to describe. So I understand why they want to go. I mean, you play sports because you like to play at a high level, and it just doesn't get any higher than that.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true. Yeah, and I guess maybe for some of these guys, it's a once in a lifetime thing. For others, they get to go 2 or 3 times, or whatever. But no.
Yeah, when you think about it, your career is, I don't know what the average is. I'm sure we could find it, but let's just say the average career is 12 years. It's probably higher for top players.
Yep.
But you want to play all the hockey you can. So you want to squeeze in the whole NHL season. You want to get that Olympic, gold medal. I've never understood, to be honest with you, the players' reluctance to, when they get knocked out of the playoffs and don't want to go to the World Championships. The way I view it is, and you always hear the same thing. Well, I'm tired. I want to hang out with my family. Well, but if you're in the playoffs, you'd be happy to keep going.
But I think they just view the World Championships as nobody really cares. Like in a lot of
I agree with you. I think that is it. But it is a chance to measure yourself in a different environment. European guys get it. It's big to them.
Yeah, it is. And I think
they have a little bit easier time selling it than the North American countries do. So
yeah, I know. I had one guy. I had one guy. Remember Chris Mason? I think I told you the story.
Yeah.
He was one of the few guys I had when I was in the agent business. Steve Eiserman was the general manager at Team Canada, and Chris Mason had me call Steve Eiserman and say, "Listen, Chris Mason wants to go." And I remember Steve Eiserman was like, because he's used to trying to talk people into going. He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, I know. This kid wants to go." And Steve was he was shocked that the player actually reached out to say, "I want to go. I want to go to it."
And that is commonplace. It's hard to get guys to go, and yet there are guys. Jack Johnson basically has told USA Hockey, "You invite me, I'm showing up." Yeah, that's how he feels about it.
And Patrick Kane's really changed in that regard too, right? Like last time he went over and played. He was
Patrick Kane is always. He's played more. It wasn't just last time. He's played a lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't go every year, but he's played a lot. And another guy, Brock Nelson, he likes to go. He has gone on multiple occasions as well. They're just guys that they like to put that USA sweater on, and for some of them, it's a little bit like top players aren't usually over there. So Brock Nelson becomes a top player.
Yeah,
he's playing on the world stage. Not at an Olympic level, but he's playing on the world stage, and suddenly he's on the top line for America.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess it's one of those things too. When your career is all over with, you want to look back and say that you got the most out of your career. That's just another one of those things.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, when you go to your Wikipedia page, like it lists, your international accomplishments, your NHL accomplishments, and if you want a medal, it's highlighted in your little stat box. So and that's your legacy. That'll be out there for a long time, and people will be looking through and someone say, I remember this player, Brock Nelson, and he's pretty good. And so, the guy was telling you that he loved watching him. So you go and look him up, and he goes, "Oh, wow, he played for USA 6 years in a row at the World Championships." So
definitely. Hey, I was really lucky yesterday. The Rangers asked me to go out to Staten Island, and they had this young girl, this Lexi. She's got cancer. And the whole community seems like got together where she was out there. They had a hockey game. The it was the firefighters and the cops. I think I'll be careful. There's some different branch of the cops, but they all get together for a game. They had the guys with the kilts on, the bagpipes, and the whole bit playing. And she was there. They made them, and they were really smart. Lexi has a sister, And obviously, there's so much attention on Lexi. Lexi actually broke her leg just from the cancer. She had a stress fracture. So she was there, but the sister obviously wasn't getting much attention. So they got her a gift of taking her to Florida to Disney World to make the sister feel.
Wow, great!
It was a great event to go. It's one of those events going to. It's like you're totally pumped up being there because it's such a great cause. And again, the firefighters and cops were fantastic. So it was good.
Did you play in the game or?
Nope. I was just there getting my picture taken, and was there at the opening ceremonies and got the. It was pretty cool. I've never really been down where the police come out with the flags and everything for the national anthem. I've always been up in the stands when it happens, but I was actually right down there, and it was a smaller rink and everything, but it's still the same production that they put on, and it was great. You had this young police officer who sang; she was tremendous. It was a great event to be at.
Who were the better hockey players, the police or the fire department?
You know what? They looked pretty even. They were really pretty even. They were good. Yeah, they were kind of laughing at themselves, saying they weren't that good, but the game got going. There's a few guys that had a little extra muscle on them, but it was good.
Yeah.
Okay, big question of the day. Hold on. Big question of the day. Did your wife see my chili /stew?
I don't know whether she saw it. I saw it, and I thought it looked good. I didn't quite understand. Isn't that just turkey chili, or do you not call it?
I put the potatoes in there too, which kind of turns it into me.
Yeah,
a stew.
Turns it into a stew. Yeah. No, it looked really good. I thought I would definitely eat that. You make a big pile of it too.
I know. So I do get a little carried away sometimes with how much I make. So I end up giving it away.
Yeah. Do you eat that over a couple of days or?
Yes. Well, this one's going to be eaten over a long period of time. It might be going on top of the turkey too. Yeah. So now we talked about this, but I'm a huge Thanksgiving guy. Turkey to me is huge. So my son and his wife were actually cooking the turkey dinner. I got to bring the raspberry pie, apple pie, and homemade hummus. But I also bought another smaller turkey to make for myself. I got at home too. So lots of turkey.
Yeah. Well, we had turkey over this past weekend, as I said before we went on the show. And we only had 7 of us, and we had a 16-pounder, so we had quite a lot. So my wife's planning some turkey tetrazzini and some other items as well. It was a good, it's the first time, they talked about the price of turkey being up, and as a sign of, as if it's an economic indicator, that the price of turkey dinner is up. But anyway, at my grocery store, I was telling my wife, I went to the store there on Saturday morning, and it was 49 cents a pound, which seems pretty standard.
Yeah.
I think. And now we had bought ours before, and we got a little, we got an organic, he didn't have any antibiotics in him when they killed him. That sort of thing. So, and we paid more than that for our turkey, but it was real. And I thought, turkey's a turkey, but it's actually, the taste of it was much better. I don't know why. But,
I get the old Butterball turkey.
Yeah, the Butterball was the standard when I was growing up.
I don't do too much. My mother and I used to baste the turkey all the time, and I've never basted a turkey. I don't think it makes a difference. I don't know. Is that just part of it?
We do as well. The big thing, of course, is my son-in-law's family has always deep fried their turkey.
That's right.
They've said, people talk about, wow, it's just the taste is unbelievable. And I've had that turkey, and it's good, but I don't see much difference between that and a baked turkey.
And you miss the smell too. Part of the cooking the turkey is the smell in the house too. Oh man.
Yeah. Somewhere along the line too. When I was a kid, we never had sausage in our stuffing, but somewhere over time, and I asked my wife about it, but she doesn't remember. We started to add sausage to our stuffing, and now that's been a kind of the way we do it. But we did that wasn't the way it was when I was a kid.
No, I agree too. So now, do you participate in the cooking of the meal, or you're just banished out of the kitchen?
Not anymore. I used to. I used to be pretty heavily involved. It's funny, but when we first got married, I did the majority of the cooking.
Really?
And then over time, but over time, my wife really got into cooking, and it's just changed. And now, we had my daughter was over and she was helping, and So I was essentially trying. I actually had some stories to write, and so I wrote a couple stories, and then we had a couple football games on. So I didn't really do anything for
And
this Thanksgiving feast.
speaking of football, Boomer Esiason, who's a friend, a great fan of the Rangers, and on TV and radio and everything. Listen to him on the radio. He is trying to start a campaign to get the Detroit Lions taken off the Thursday game. What do you think? The Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, well, that would be horrible. I mean, it's a big tradition in the Detroit, and it's been talked about for a long time. But that Thanksgiving game, it's just huge. When I was a kid, I've told this story before. I remember that one year it wasn't sold out, so it wasn't blacked. It was blacked out, and my cousin went to, this was Radio Shack had just started business. So this would have been in the early 70s, maybe 70 or 71, because I'd have been a teenager. And my cousin bought a huge antenna that we climbed up on his roof and installed so that we could watch that game and pull it in from a Cleveland channel.
Oh, nice.
And my aunt, God bless her, used to time the Thanksgiving dinner
You told me that.
for halftime.
Yep. I'll let Kevin finish the story.
Which I found was really interesting. It should be about Thanksgiving, not about the football, but she knew how much my cousin, I love watching that game, so that was part of her tradition. So
see, you know what?
So we were a little slow to come back.
Right. And I know Detroit's not that good a team right now, but I still enjoy watching them play for some reason. It seems like it's the tradition of Thanksgiving, right? That Detroit's play.
Well, yeah, and they're so bad that's part of the enjoyment. They have found so many different ways to lose, but it's still a really big deal in Detroit that they play.
So Susan, that's a great question, Susan. So I'm a big guy. I have my vodka with cranberry in it, but for some reason I don't like the cranberry sauce. I don't know what that is. Maybe I haven't really given it a chance.
Yeah, I like cranberry. We have real cranberries. We make our own. So I shouldn't say we. There's no me in it, but
when you
but we have.
So when you eat the cranberry, do you have so you have a piece of turkey stuffing and cranberry all together, or is it cranberry go separate?
I just have cranberry like on my plate, and if it gets a little mixed up, that's all the better. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, it's no. I don't see any different. Like sometimes you have orange chicken. Or you pork chops and applesauce, those kinds of things. So, a little piece of turkey with a little cranberry mixed in gives a little tart, flavor, and just kind of have it on the plate. I mean, I don't get my turkey and smear cranberry sauce all over it or anything, but, I just have it there. And it's kind of a sweet to go with all the, everything you got going on. So,
oh God, again, every time we start talking about turkey, my mouth gets watering too.
Again, I found through the years when you were a kid, don't you remember there being like 10 or 12 different kinds of food? Like at my aunt's house, it just stuff. There'd be an ambrosia salad and a Waldorf salad, which was apples and nuts, and there'd be coleslaw, and there'd be a regular salad, and there'd be a fruit salad, which I guess the ambrosia is. And then there'd be green beans, and there'd be corn, and there'd be all kinds of vegetables, sweet potatoes, and everything else. And now you talk to people, and it's very limited. Like, we probably we just had green beans, coleslaw. We had the Allen famous Brussels sprout salad, which is a given.
What's in the Brussels sprout? I was just thinking about Brussels sprouts. What's in that?
You'd have to ask my wife.
And did she roast up the Brussels sprouts? So
for sure. Yeah, they're all roasted up, and all the we just have every holiday meal has that. And then she had for her Thanksgiving, early Thanksgiving, she had this kind of this vegetable pocket that she ate. So it was her and my daughter, who's also vegetarian, and then one of my grandkids, they ate that. It was there's just carrots and potatoes and things in it, and it's all vegetables, and it's
so I've been asked. So I usually make a raspberry and an apple pie, which I will make this year. I've been also asked to make a rhubarb and raspberry pie as well. I haven't had rhubarb.
Rhubarb is my wife's favorite pie.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, her favorite pie. She loves it. To me, strawberry rhubarb pie. It's kind of like it's like a fake rhubarb because it has the taste of it, which is a tart taste. But I can't really stand rhubarb pie. But if you mix it with strawberries, well, then it's just a strawberry pie that's kind of tart. So
yeah, that's true.
So,
Yes.
But,
All right,
anyway,
my mouth's watering here. Oh,
yeah, and as I told you before the show, I'm going for our Thanksgiving. We're going to my son's house, and for whatever reason, his family they're not big turkey eaters, so we're having a Mexican fiesta type Thanksgiving. So
wow.
Be a little different. Had my turkey on Saturday. I'll have
his name is Shane as well, right? Like my son's. Okay,
yeah.
So my son's name is Shane too. We should probably have him on the show and discuss this lack of turkey situation. I think he.
He's not a big fan of it too. I don't know. It's hard to believe. He's not a vegetarian, but like he also doesn't. He doesn't like spaghetti and meat sauce. That's not him. He's a portobello mushroom. He likes some meats. Like he makes great ribs. He makes great pork chops. He makes, and both my son-in-law is also a guy that can really grill as well. He's got a smoker. Like if you want to eat well in the summertime, when my son-in-law comes and does ribs and does pork butt, those kinds of things. They my sons all know how to do all that. They're really good at it.
I like it.
I've done some ribs in my time, but they're not as good as my son-in-law's, no doubt.
That is an art too to get it the right way. Like some people want them like fall off the bone. Some people want a little bit more substance to it.
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, we've prattled on probably a little long, but that's just our way.
Yeah.
If you want to read what I have to say, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and HockeyBuzz.com.
And if you want to listen to the radio version of this show again, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Again, that's radio.co at 365 Sports. Everybody have a good day, rest of the day today and tomorrow. We'll see you on Wednesday.